All right, guys, welcome back to TWI Fishing. Before we get into the fish catches, I wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk to you guys about a couple of baits and locations that you could be using to try to catch some of these bass if you are faced with dirtier water conditions in the heat of the summer. Let's get into it. So here's what happened. I was faced with water clarity that was only probably 8 inches to a foot this past Wednesday, which definitely was a curveball because previously the past couple weeks, I've been fishing at a lake that had water clarity 1.5 feet, 2 feet, maybe more. And when I was given that better clarity, I was able to catch these bass in 10, 11, 12 plus feet of water, bouncing a jig head minnow over their head, fishing a jig on the bottom, basically fishing further off the bank, and they would be there. I tried that on Wednesday. It didn't really happen. Don't get me wrong, I did catch a couple of fish doing that, actually bouncing a football jig over their heads. I caught a couple, but I tell you what, I made so many casts at individual fish. I made so many casts at pieces of structure like trees and rocks without many results fishing that deeper range of 10, 11, 12 feet plus. So I had to change something. I knew that, I could scratch a limit doing that, but it probably wasn't the best way to catch these fish. So instead, I naturally went shallower, which is something that I'm pretty used to. I love fishing shallow. Those guys that have seen my channel before, even before the live scope, like shallow fishing is what I love to do. So basically, here's the deal. Most of our lakes here in Iowa are relatively similar. Even if they're not the same general shape, a lot of them have the same structure made by the Iowa DNR. A lot of them have rock fields. And basically the rock fields are a rectangular pile of rocks that could be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 feet long and just as wide, maybe 10, 20, 30, 40 feet wide. Just a huge mound of rocks. And they're actually pretty darn close to the bank. A lot of times when you think offshore, you're thinking really, really far off the bank. But if you can't see the structure, I'm going to call it offshore. These rock fields are only sitting in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet of water, and I think they're primarily put there for panfish spawn, bass spawn, just for the recycling of fish. And there's always fish on them. Like, I caught a really big bass earlier this year in late April on the rock field out of different lake. You can catch fish all summer and fall on them, but it seems like they get hit pretty hard by fishermen. I feel like a lot of guys are using Texas rigs and jigs in those rock fields, picking them apart nice and slow. And don't get me wrong, they might be catching fish, but when you're on a lake that has 7, 8, 9 of these rock fields, it's going to take you a whole entire day to just fish half of those thoroughly with a jig. So I decided to fish something differently. I decided to pick up a little chatterbait and throw it around because I feel like not many guys are throwing this tiny little chatterbait. Compared to my hand, this thing's small. This is, I think it's a mini-max. It's got a tungsten head on it. This is a 1/2 ounce little mini-max chatterbait by Chatterbait. And I got a bright neon trailer here just so that I can kind of stick out in the green water. This is the bait that I was throwing around those rocks. And the reason why I really like it is because you can control how deep you're going to fish it. I personally was letting it sink to the bottom, and then I was reeling it back nice and slow so it would stay in close contact with the bottom. If you wanted to fish it higher in the water column, you could just raise your rod tip up or pop it up and whatnot. But it's really nice to be able to control your depth and switch it up with a chatterbait. A crankbait could have worked as well, but I noticed when I did throw a crankbait on Wednesday, whatever's on the bottom, it's not clean. There's a lot of like dead leaves, dead twigs, mud, and stuff that gets all over the hooks and just makes it a mess. So a little chatterbait is probably something not many guys are throwing. That would be worth a shot. So many fish bit this very close to the boat, which makes me think they were following it, they liked it, and then they were just choking it right before I pulled it out of the water, which kind of told me that it was a solid choice. So I would throw this guy around those rock fields. That would be a safe bet if I were you. If you get tired of the rock fields, you could always just fish some main lake points, some good looking timber if you see some in your lake. The point is, you're looking for spots where it goes from shallow to deep really quick. I fished really far up on the north end of this lake where it's more of like a bowl. It doesn't get as deep very quick. And I caught some fish up there, don't get me wrong, But as soon as I started getting more to like the mid-lake, where it goes from like 3-4 feet down to 16-17 feet quickly, that's where I found groups of fish. So if you're fishing those main lake points and structure, I would be throwing a jig if I were you. You could fish a crankbait again. I caught a nice one on my first cast into a group of fish I found, but after that, again, it was just catching muck and I wasn't getting any bites. If you know there's fish there, or you find a juicy looking piece of cover, I would throw a jig in there. And again, I'm not throwing it in the rock fields because it's going to take too long. I'm throwing this in the very specific areas that I can take 10 casts with a jig and move on, or cast to 10 fish and move on. The thing is, you know the fish are down there, so if you fish this jig nice and slow and just work it pretty naturally, you're probably going to catch a fish or two. The main way I was doing it was I was just letting it sink to the bottom, and then I was just barely hopping it up. I tend to fish a jig a lot faster than most people. That's what I've gathered from watching my own footage. And I catch fish, but I'm really trying to fish it slower because I think that makes it look more natural to the fish. So the combination of fishing the rock fields faster, bigger areas with a chatterbait, control the depth, and then fishing slower in more concentrated, smaller areas where I knew there were some fish or a juicy piece of cover. That was the 1-2 punch for me this past Wednesday, and this is exactly what I would be throwing if I was back on the water anytime soon. It's probably going to be what I start with next Wednesday when I go again. But I'm hoping these two lures give you an idea of what to fish, and I hope that those couple of locations and structures will give you a good idea for where you can probably catch some fish here in the heat of the summer, either in Iowa or the Midwest. It's probably all about the same, especially if you're given dirty water with that green hue to it. All right, so if you stuck around through this chunk of the video, you're in for a treat. Let's go look at some of the fish that I ended up catching on those two baits right there. Come on, eat it, eat it, eat it, come on. Come on, bro, eat it. You did. Saw you last cast in there. Number 2. Little 2-pounder, 2 1/4 probably. $2.53, 2 1/2. Little 2 1/2 pounder. All right, see you, dude. Nice fish. Cool, very cool. Little guy on the jig. All right. Very nice. On the deep side, got one. Weigh him just for the sake of it. Hopefully if we get him. There we go. $2.13. All right, see you, dude. take you today. Little chatterbait guy. Man, these fish feel so much bigger than they actually are. They're not. Right by the boat. It's a decent one. Take that guy. Heck yes. Hook already came out. $2.53. Nice one. 12 1/4. See you, dude. There we go. That's who we want. Looks like a good one. From far away, at least. There we go. It's a nice looking fish. Choking that little chatterbait. $2.82. Right, 13 pounds, nice fish. Oh, that's a good one. That's what we want. That's a nice fish. He's mean. Choke the jig. All right. It's a pretty one. It's a nice looking fish. $2.55. All right, 13 1/4. Nice fish. See you, dude. Got one of those fish suspended in the tree.
Decent one. Decent one for this lake, that's for sure. There we go. Nice looking fish. Finally. Taking a hot minute since we got one. Recording? Yeah, I'm recording. $284. All right. See you later, dude. First cast in there, got one. First cast into that school. That's what I saw. How big are you? First cast in there. Well, that's a nice one. That's a big boy. Yes. Nice fish. All right. I don't know how to grab him. He's got that DT10 all up in his face. I guess we'll do this. There we go. Nice looking fish. First cast in there. .302, check it. Nice 3-pounder. There we go. Broke me off. There's no pike in here. You break me off. Oh, that's frustrating. There we go, that's a good looking one. Look at that guy. That stud right there. Yeah, 368. All right, we're at 15 pounds, 1492. Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Thank you, sir. Not gonna help, but he's a nice one. Nice looking fish. really thumped it. Nice one. They're choking that jig. Here's another one. Maybe bigger than a 2.5. Probably right there. Jeez, acrobatic. You might help. We're gonna find out. These fish are choking it. 49, nope, gotta be 255. Nice fish though.
All right, guys, that brings us to the end of the video. I appreciate you guys watching, tuning into the channel. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Central Iowa bass fishing, and we will see you guys on the water.